Welcome back. Someone mentioned to me the other day that I do a short video on what happens during each of the 6 terms of a 2-year MBA program. So here I am going to tell you what happens during each of the 6 terms over a 2-year MBA program, but with a slight tinge of sarcasm. Before we move forward, do subscribe to the channel and we'll get started. Now, once you get your admit and if you believe you can relax for some time before B school starts, that's not totally true. Your neighborhood auntie will ensure that there is enough pressure on you. She will tell you about what the latest salaries are, which companies you should be trying for, and how much Sharma ji ka beta is earning. Now, once you come to B school and imagine 350, 400 super achievers coming under one roof, term 1 is going to be very, very intense academically. Each person is trying to establish themselves in the animal hierarchy. Every mark in every exam is going to be fought over. Now, this typical behavior is actually shown in a classroom. Now, in a classroom in MBA, there is something called class participation, where students are expected to contribute to a discussion by speaking up. Now, imagine this is what happens. One student speaks up. The other 58 start getting insecure that they have not spoken up, and they also put up their hands speaking up. So in a 1-hour lecture, what happens is sometimes the professor speaks for 2 minutes and the remaining students speak for 58 minutes. So there is good class participation, there is desperate class participation, there is shameless class participation, and there is ridiculous class participation. Now, in such an environment, when a nerdy boy and a nerdy girl meet, sparks often fly. But given that they might be in existing relationships already, they become good friends, the brother-sister kind. Another entity that takes birth in term 1 is the concept of a free rider. Now, a lot of work in business schools is working in groups. You work in groups to make projects, you work in groups to work on certain assignments. So this is a free rider is an entity who's someone who doesn't want to work but wants to take all credit. So free rider is very smart. From day 1, they will go around class and they will say, who are those smart, gullible, naive people whom I can leech on to for the next 2 years. Term 2 can get slightly tricky in a business school. Term 2 is all about your summer placement. So this is when you will have your seniors who will sit down with you and help you prepare a resume. Every achievement you have done in life will start getting showcased in that one pager. So people will go back to their workplace, the place they used to work before coming to business school, and then try and identify what impact they had at their place of work. You will have students who will come and say that I saved $50 million in my job before coming to B school. Someone will say I saved $100 million. I saved $200 million. Now, when you add the millions and the billions saved by students across the batch, you will realize that the size of the Indian economy has been crossed. There will be so many hobbies that people will develop overnight. Some people will start developing an interest in marathon running. Some people will start developing photography interest. Some people will become poets overall. There are some people who will love animals. For example, you will have a Bengali who's eaten non-veg food all 3 meals every day of his life, suddenly keep a parrot on his shoulder and take a photograph and say, I am an animal lover. This is also the period when nerdy boy and nerdy girl, which I spoke of earlier, will realize that their existing relationships are not working and they will get romantically involved. Now, the first stress point will come in the relationship, and the stress point will be directly proportional to the salaries, the difference in the salaries in their summer placements. Now, the salary structure in the summer placements can get a little tricky and it's not very easy to understand. But you need not worry, because if you send it to your neighborhood auntie, she will exactly tell you what your take home is going to be. Now, term 3, in my opinion, is the best term in a B school. This is the term where student elections happen and most people try and enter the clubs of their choice. Now, student elections happen for the student council, for the academic council, and for heads of the various student clubs. Now, if you follow Indian politics, you will realize that how people talk about elections in UP, Uttar Pradesh, where everyone votes along community lines. You'll be amazed that's the same behavior that happens in student elections. The Punjabis vote for the Punjabis, the Tamilians vote for the Tamilians, the Banyas vote for the Banyas. There is only one scene where community-driven voting does not happen. It is when a pretty lady stands for election. When a pretty lady stands for election, she wins by a landslide margin. Term 3 is also characterized by some of the electives people have to choose in the second year. Now, the first year course is fairly standard, but the second year course is fairly flexible. And you would assume that most aspirational, high performing management graduates will actually choose electives which are of genuine interest to them. This is how typically the selection procedure works. No one chooses electives that start before 11 a.m. in the morning. No one likes to get up early in the second year. No one chooses electives where there are surprise quizzes and where there is class participation, meaning that you have to study every day and come. And no one chooses electives where it is very difficult to score. Now, term 4 is when students come back after an 8-week summer internship and now are a part of the second year. Now, during this phase, a lot of students have immense gratitude for what life has given them and they want to give back to society. So when the junior batch comes in, every student wants to become an advisor or a mentor to them. People, after all, have had an incredible work experience over 8 weeks and they want to share their learnings with the junior batch. When I was in my term 1 and I was fairly busy, I was allocated a mentor in term 4 and he would call me every day and said, come to me, I want to coach you, I want to advise you, I want to mentor you. When I couldn't go for some time, he finally knocked at my doorstep one evening and he sat with me for 3 hours so that I could learn from his immense summer placements over 8 weeks. The second thing that happens in term 4 is people start developing an artistic taste. You will have students who will start growing grass behind their room. Some of them just like to roll in it, some of them like to step on it, some of them like to smoke it, grind it, lick it, eat it. The third thing that happens in term 4 is given so much free time, the next set of relationships start on campus. So the previous set of relationships typically end on campus depending on how the summer internships went for the various people. In term 5, there is again a mad rush over resume points because the final placements are just coming in about 3-4 months. So everything again becomes about the resume point and people start taking part in various festivals, various contests so that they can beef up their resume. Term 5 is also characterized by the fact that the exchange term is on. So half the students from your batch go outside and half the students from European and American universities come to India. This is what typically happens. You will have 4 students running after a pretty European girl. And most people typically think that if the pretty European lady student smiles at you, that she is going to be the mother of your kids. So the 4 Indian students desperately try to woo the pretty European woman over the 2.5 month term. Now at the end of the term, she's just being polite and she decides that it's better if she's into women rather than dating any Indian MBA student. But nevertheless, nobody gets disheartened because of it, because at the end it is about the resume in term 5. So you will typically have these 4 guys writing in their resume, one in a batch of 450 to have dated a European girl over 3 months. Took her out for 12 lunches and 14 dinners. Now term 6 is the final term on business school and the focus is typically on final placement. So the same drama that students went through their summers actually gets repeated in their final placements. The mood is fairly somber and people are more worried about their jobs. The high point of this term is actually what happens after the final placements. People go for short trips with their friends to Goa, Bhutan, Hong Kong, Maldives and actually have the time of their lives. Sometimes once you finish B school, you're not sure of how exactly have you done. Have you done well? Have you not done well? And the litmus test to determine your performance is actually when you go back home. If your neighborhood auntie calls you for a 7-course meal, you should realize you've done fairly well. So this is my take on what happens during 2 years in a B school. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think and look forward to meeting you again.